Dave Chappelle calls out Trump's Muslim ban with the kind of math you can't ignore, and the reality of it will shock you.
I've never seen somebody in an office so high with the most just basic solutions. Like, you know, we should not let any more Muslims in the country till we can figure out what's going on. Did he just say, figure out what's going on? Who doesn't know how to do basic math? Let's count it out, okay? There's been 17 mass shootings in the United States. 4 of them were done by Muslims. None of those 4 Muslims were from any of the 7 countries in your ass original ban. And since he brought it up, the other 13 shootings were done by the Tiki Torch whites. And you don't see me trying to ban white people from the show to keep the rest of the audience safe. It's a terrible idea because it's mean and it's racist. And most importantly, it would be catastrophic to my bottom line. If there were no white people here tonight, I might leave this bitch with $1,800.
I recently have a Twitter account. I typed my name in. They were like, you cannot use celebrity names. I was like, word? So then I see a fake Dave Chappelle. So I tried to look at his page, and, you know, I couldn't see it unless I was his friend. And then I clicked the thing. He has not accepted my friend request. And it turned out, Jimmy, the guy was like hilarious. I was like, yo, this guy's like, he's funny. And then he started having like all this fun, like girls were tweeting him all these sexy messages. I'm like, dang, who is this guy? And then, like a week or 2 into it, he just turns evil and starts like a whole Twitter beef with this guy, Cat Williams. You know Cat?
Absolutely, Cat Williams. Yeah. So fake Dave Chappelle starts to fight with Cat Williams? The real Cat Williams?
Right, well, that's the problem, that Cat Williams starts saying things to this fake Dave Chappelle that's hurting the real Dave Chappelle's feelings. So then, like, maybe like a couple weeks ago, I go to this, they have like this Def Jam comedy night thing on Sunset. So I go to the comedy show, and I see Kevin Hart there. I'm like, what's up, Kevin? And he's like, yo, man, Cat's here. Like I was in trouble or something. Like, what? I was like, so I said, well, where's he at? So then I go over to Cat, and I'm like, yo, Cat, man, I got to talk to you. I don't have a Twitter page. And he's like, so what, Dave Chappelle? What are you trying to say? And I'm like, I'm trying to say I don't have a Twitter page. He goes, so that's not unusual. I don't have a Twitter page either.
This isn't just a joke, it's Dave exposing police brutality and the high cost of justice. Some stories hit harder than any true crime show, so tell me, is this justice or just another system failure?
I saw that videotape of that lady that got beat up in L.A. in the traffic. You see that shit on rush hour traffic? They beat a black woman's ass. This woman didn't even do anything wrong. It's fucked up. It was so fucked up it didn't even go to court. The city of L.A. just gave that woman $1.5 million for her pain and suffering. That is not bad, considering that's the same amount of money that Marcos Maidana made to fight Floyd Mayweather the second time. And this woman obviously hasn't trained a day in her life. You can see it on the tape. She didn't come to fight. Her guards were low. She was taking a lot of shots. Everybody's mad at police now. I watched that. You see that shit on Netflix, the making a murderer, the Stephen Avery story? Yeah, well, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Stephen Avery is in more trouble than any white person in the history of the United States has ever been in. In a justice system designed for him to thrive, he's failed miserably twice. I can't even wrap my mind around it. If Making a Murderer was about a black dude, that shit would be called Duh. Of course everything can go wrong. Seems like he did it all right. The motherfucker even had $200,000 for his legal defense. That should get you off in Wisconsin. That's like OJ money. All he needed to get off that he didn't have was a single black juror. That's all it would have took. Because only a black dude in the United States can look at 11 other dudes and be like, I think the police did this shit.
This isn't just Chappelle clowning on Kobe and OJ. It's a sharp commentary on how America builds black celebrities up only to tear them down. That rise and fall is what gives this joke its edge. But what do you think? Is he pushing comedy too far or just exposing reality?
This is the worst time in history to be a black celebrity. They locking all our stars up. It's hot right now for black celebrities. I knew it was bad when Kobe got in trouble. I said, this is a wrap for us. He's one of the most wholesome dudes we had. Kobe kept it together. Thank God he held his game together, because if he was cracking under pressure and getting like 6 points a game, the whole LA would have been like, that nigger is guilty. Kobe was playing his ass off. He was playing like his freedom depended on that shit. You see that motherfucker in them games, this nigga's trying to beat that case on the court. Like the judge threw him the ball, like, play for your freedom. If I could talk to Kobe, I'd be like, just relax, you'll be fine, man. Because the public is still giving Kobe the benefit of the doubt. He's one of the few black celebrities that get that.
Not because he's a celebrity, more because, you know, the girl showed up with 8 different semens to the investigation. You can't do that. That's 7 too many. That's a lot of semen, man. This bitch got Noah's Ark in her panties. Like, what, you trying to recreate humanity or something? She's a collector. She got every unsolved mystery. The answer might be in this girl's paint. That's the first place I look. OJ's other glove is in there. Bigfoot's footprint. 3 CSI reruns is in that motherfucker. We got the most diabolical draws ever. Fuck being a celebrity. This is not the time to be a black star. They locking all our stars up. Black celebrities, this is a witch hunt for us, man. God damn it. It's all OJ's fault. Ever since OJ got away, white people have just been locking up our stars one by one. It's true. And it's not even OJ's fault. It's our fault. We celebrated too openly when OJ got acquitted. We should have been quiet about that shit. As soon as they're not guilty, he was just oh, in your face, in your face. It hurts, don't it? It hurts. Burns, doesn't it? Ooh, that justice system burns, doesn't it? Welcome to my world, motherfucker, all that shit. White people wanted OJ's ass. It's bad. City of LA spent over $12 million just trying that motherfucker. And the look on white people's face when he was acquitted, priceless.
This isn't just Dave clowning Kanye. It's a razor-sharp breakdown of how language, controversy, and culture collide. Chappelle shows why 2 simple words can shake the world. But here's the question. Is he exposing the truth or just daring us to laugh at it?
Before I start tonight, I just wanted to read a brief statement that I prepared. I denounce anti-Semitism in all its forms, and I stand with my friends in the Jewish community. And that, Kanye, is how you buy yourself some time. I gotta tell you guys, I've probably been doing this 35 years now. And early in my career, I learned that there are 2 words in the English language that you should never say together in sequence. And those words are the and Jews. I've never heard someone do good after they said that. Kanye's gotten into some scrapes before. Normally when he's in trouble, I pull up immediately. But this time I was like, you know what? Let me see what's gonna happen first. I just want to see where this is all going. I can't even remember how it started. Vaguely, I remember it started with a tweet, strange tweet. It was like, I'm feeling a little sleepy. I'm gonna give me some rest, but when I wake up, I'm gonna go DEFCON 3 on the Jews. And then he just went to bed. I was up all night worried. What is he gonna do to the Jews? I grew up around Jewish people. I have a lot of Jewish friends. So I'm not freaked out by your culture. I know a little bit about it just from hanging around. I'd be like, yo, let's go out after school tomorrow. They'd be like, we can't go out. It's Shanana tomorrow. I'd be like, what is Shanana? I had so many questions. Why do some of your people dress like Run DMC? Kanye woke up from that net. We went right to work. A year ago, I'd seen him on a podcast called Drink Champs. Great show. And it was an amazing appearance. Noriega and them were there, the rappers that I love, and they all had their gold chains and stuff on. And Kanye said, only millionaires wear chains. They said, what? He said, I'm a billionaire. Billionaires don't wear their money on their body. I tucked my chain and I said, oh, snap. It was a good appearance. It was fun and funny. But when he woke up, he went on Drink Champs again. This time, he was on one. He was mad about something. He said, I can say anti-Semitic things, and Adidas can't drop me. Adidas dropped that immediately. Ironically, Adidas was founded by Nazis, and they were offended.
This isn't just about a stolen candy bar. It's a dark, ridiculous take on addiction, poverty, and what we choose to laugh at. Chappelle turns something disgusting into comedy gold, but should we be laughing at all?
And thanks for making a nigga feel comfortable in the gayest place on earth. You guys got Disney World jealous out this motherfucker. I didn't really think it was that gay at first. I was like, what is everybody? Because when I was coming out here, everyone was like, man, that place is really gay. I was like, what the fuck is everybody talking about? It's not so gay. And then I wandered into that Castro. God damn. I said, this is America's anus right here. This shit is deep. Went to that Tenderloin. There's nothing tender about that motherfucker at all. That shit was rough. The opposite of tender. I have never seen crack smoke so casually before. These niggas was sitting in front of Starbucks smoking crack and drinking coffee. I said, this is off the hook. Talking about politics. I seen one crackhead trying to break into somebody's car, man, and it struck a chord with me. I tried to stop him. I said, hey! And he looked back and saw me and said, oh, keep an eye out. I said, nigga, that was me that said that. Not trying to help you. I want this shit to stop. Crackheads are like that. I had a crackhead break my car window one time. Broke it! You know what he stole? Fucking candy bar I had lying on the seat. That's all he took. It's a goddamn candy bar. I was so mad. I drove around the neighborhood for 5 hours looking for a crackhead with chocolate on his face. I did that. I finally found when I grabbed that motherfucker. I said, hey, man, what's all this chocolate on your face, motherfucker? He looked confused. Chocolate? This is doo-doo, baby. I said, ah!
Watch how Dave Chappelle tears apart Juicy Smouillet's late-night Subway sandwich story and somehow makes the truth even funnier than the lie.
Juicy Smouillet is a very famous French actor, and he became famous on a show called Empire. He was the victim of a racist and homophobic attack. You see, Juicy Smouillet is gay and he is black, not just French. Apparently, when he was walking down the street late at night, 2 white men came out of the shadows with MAGA hats on, beat him up, tied a rope around his neck, called him all kinds of niggas, and put some bleach on him and ran off into the night. This shit was like international news, and everybody was furious, especially in Hollywood. It's all over everybody's Twitter feed and Instagram page. Justice for Juicy and all this shit. The whole country was up in arms. It was talking about it all the time on the news. And for some reason, African Americans, we were like oddly quiet. We were so quiet about this shit that the gay community started accusing African American community of being homophobic for not supporting him. What they didn't understand is that we were supporting him with our silence, because we understood that this nigga was clearly lying.
This isn't just about what Manny Pacquiao said, it's about memory, pain, and who gets to move on. Dave flips a public scandal into a deeper truth about identity and justice. But do you think it lands, or does it cut too deep?
Some people can't do that. Some people just can't get over themselves. Gay people have a hard time doing that recently. Here we go. Here comes the deep water. No, recently I've noticed that. I noticed it with that Manny Pacquiao controversy. Yeah, no, it was now in the gay community's defense. Manny Pacquiao said some outlandish shit about gay people. Very, very not nice things that I won't repeat, but there was biblical verses and some analogies to animals. Wasn't a good look. Nike took his shoes immediately, which I thought was a little harsh. A little harsh. You know what I mean? Because he's just because he's Asian. You know what I mean? Fuck, you gonna take shoes off Asian dude to appease a gay dude. You know what I mean? No? You don't know what I mean. But Asian people kind of know what I mean. No? No Asians in the front? No? No, this is what I mean. Okay, look. Okay, you're an Asian dude. No, I say this with no disrespect, but we're all Americans, right? And we can agree that America has a huge body count all over the world, but nowhere more than Asia. Literally, if you look at history, recently, we have bombed the masculinity out of an entire continent. We dropped 2 atomic bombs on fucking Japan, and they've been drawing Hello Kitty and shit ever since. There's a lot of lady boys in the wake of our bombs. And I know these things because my wife is Asian. She's Filipino. All right, well, okay, so that explains it. Now you know why you see me at all those Filipino events. I'm not there picking up pussy, I'm dropping some off. I take my wife to all that. I took my wife to see Pacquiao fight Mayweather. We sat ringside, okay? That was a quiet car ride home. That's what that was. But if you know what's popping in the Philippines, you know that they got a whole generation of kids in the Philippines growing up without their mothers. A lot of women in the Philippines go to the Arabian Peninsula, they come to the United States, they make all their money here, they send all that money back home, which is still one of the #1 staples in the Philippines economy, money that their expats send back to the Philippines. The men, on the other hand, are left rearing children, twiddling their thumbs, waiting on their wives' checks. These men have been fucking emasculated. And then suddenly, a boxer rises from amongst them and reinstates their manhood with his motherfucking fist. This is not the guy you're supposed to ask, what do you think of homosexuals?
This isn't just a joke about doctors. It's a deeper jab at desire, professionalism, and the blurred lines between trust and temptation. Dave's not just being crude. He's asking who really belongs in the room. What do you think? Too far or finally honest?
You know, it's illegal for a gynecologist to say the word pussy. They can only say vagina, or they can name individual parts medically, but they can never say shorthand, even if the gynecologist is a woman. I feel like if it's a woman gynecologist, it's cool. Like, am I all right? And she's like, girl, that pussy is. I don't think men should be allowed to be gynecologists. That shit is a conflict of interest. Even when my wife was pregnant, we used to go to the gynecologist, and he'd put her legs up in that stirrup like this. He'd be like, all right, Miss Chappelle, just try to relax. I push it back up, motherfucker, I got this. Just tell me what to look for. One of those home-style checkups. There's too many ethical questions when men do that. Like, can a gynecologist lose their license for smelling their fingers during an exam? Is that illegal? How could they not? These are men. It's like if you have a good barbecue, you don't even think about it. You just...
This joke isn't just about ditching Flint. It's Dave exposing how fame can twist loyalty, blur values, and trigger public judgment. Would you have stood your ground or folded too?
I'm happy really to see black people come. You know, a lot of black people don't fuck with me like they used to. But there's a lot of reasons. There's a few reasons you don't see black people at my shows. One is because obviously black people have slower internet connections. I mean, that would be my guess. I don't know what... Actually, my own actions drew a wedge between me and the community I hold so dear. A couple of weeks ago, I was supposed to be in Flint, Michigan for a charity benefit that was supposed to raise awareness for the appalling condition of the water in Flint. I don't know if you know this, but the water in Flint is fucking poisonous. It's actually making people sick. I mean, Hollywood people like, so what? At least they have water. But this water's fucked up. So a lot of black celebrities flew into Flint, and they did a tremendous charity benefit. And I was on the schedule to appear. So the reason a lot of people haven't heard about this benefit, it was the same day as the Oscars. I was on my way to the airport to go to Flint, and then Chris Rock calls me and is like, hey, Dave, I got a ticket for you for the Oscars. Can you make it? And I was like, sure, I'm on my way to the airport right now. Oh, come on, man. What am I going to do about that water? What am I, a fucking superhero? I need to have fun. I need to live, too. I didn't fuck that water up. Stevie Wonder was there. They didn't need me. I've never been to the Oscars. You've seen the movies I make. I was excited as fuck. I knew I was going to get in some trouble because when I was walking in the red carpet, the black press came after me. Excuse me, brother. When you hear somebody call you brother too much, something terrible's about to happen. Excuse me, brother. And then I looked back, and the motherfucker had a tuxedo with the kente cloth tie. I said, uh-oh. He said, I just want to ask you a couple questions. I said, what publication are you with? He said, me, I'm with the Daily Bongo. I said, Daily Bongo? What the fuck? Who the fuck reads this? He said, listen, brother, I just want to ask you a quick question. You understand that this year, this is a boycott for the Oscars, so I'm just wondering what made you, of all people, cross the motherfucking picket line and be here tonight. I said, boycott? I haven't been working in 10 years. What do you mean boycott? I've been on strike. Y'all niggas didn't stop working. I had to watch fucking Key and Peele do my show every night.
This isn't just a history joke, it's Dave's wild take on how war, gender roles, and economic power reshaped women forever. It's hilarious but also uncomfortably real, so what do you think? Is he exposing truth or just poking the bear?
Back when we were growing up, only black people were mad. Now, everybody's just trying to get in on the act. I try to think to myself, well, when did everyone get mad? And then I realized this happened before we were born. This is a long way to go, but probably started in the Second World War. Think about it. All these black men, millions of black men, leave the United States for the first time, go over to Europe with America's armed forces and fight the Nazis and make more money fighting Nazis than they ever dreamed they would make in the United States. And a lot of those men, while they were in Europe, just to be real, not to be crass, a lot of them probably got their dick sucked by white women. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, this was World War II Europe, and these were desperate times, and penises were being sucked for shoelaces and chocolate and very frivolous things. And it's very hard to come back to America and sit on the back of the bus after you've been in the south of France getting your dick sucked for a Crunch Bar or some crazy shit like that. That's a life-changing experience. And while that was happening in Europe, here in America, for the first time, women entered the workforce en masse by the millions. All the men were gone. Someone had to run the factory. The ladies did it. This was the first generation of American women to have independent income in mass. And when the men came back, the women weren't the same. American women had grown. They were uttering phrases that no woman on earth had ever spoken before. Things like no and shut the fuck up and I don't feel like it.
This isn't just a wild cop story. It's Dave Chappelle flipping the script on authority, perception, and who gets the benefit of the doubt. So ask yourself, was he lucky or just playing the system?
I was out here a few weeks ago. I almost got arrested. I'm not bullshit. This happens to a lot of black people. What happened was I was coming out of one of those nightclubs in Hollywood, and my friend saw me. I guess I was wobbling or something. So he just rolled up. He's a good friend of mine. He was like, hey, Dave, give me the keys. And I was like, all right, nigga, just take the keys. And I got in the passenger side of my car, and he drove it. And it was fine. Just talking, chopping it up. And then on the 10, the blue and whites hit us. Now, I should tell you, the friend that was driving me was black, which really doesn't have anything to do with the story, other than to let you know there was fear in the car. Not my fear. I'm black, but I'm also Dave Chappelle. So I figured, she'll probably be fine. Traffic stop started off on the right foot. Cops came up to the driver's side. Hi, how you guys doing? And he recognized me immediately. Oh, Dave Chappelle. And I looked at my friend like, we getting out of this shit. And then he says, you guys were swerving in the lane. Do you mind just stepping out the car for a second? Still no cause for alarm. I looked through the rearview mirror. The body language of the arrest looked good. He was talking. So then I started fucking with the radio. Traffic stop's going good if you listen to the radio when someone else is outside of the car. But then when I looked back in the rearview mirror, something had gone horribly wrong. The motherfucker was back there like. And the next thing I knew, they were stuffing him in the back of the car. And I thought, when anybody would think of a situation like that, oh my God, what is going to happen to me? And the police walked up to the window. Mr. Chappelle, we had to arrest your friend. He refused to take our breathalyzer test. I said, that motherfucker, not complying, that's odd. So, officer, what's going to happen to me? Well, you're fine. We're just going to have to ask you to step out of the car so we can impound the vehicle, and we'll arrange for you to have a ride home. I said, oh, well, nah, I would rather you just give me the keys. Mr. Chappelle, your friend already told us he's your designated driver. We can't let you drive in this condition. I was like, nah, I'm good. And then suddenly the shit turned into Vegas. He was like, I'll let you blow for it. I said, excuse me? He said, if you blow in my breathalyzer. I said, oh, I thought you was trying to get your D-size. If you blow in my breathalyzer and pass, I'll give you the keys to the car. I said, Set him up, nigga, let's play. And I blew in that thing, and it made a noise. I said, uh-oh. And he looked at it and he said, oh, well, Mr. Chappelle, I guess you're free to go. I said, I am.
This story isn't just funny. It's Dave Chappelle wrestling with violence, parenting, and how honesty can go hilariously wrong. But here's the twist. Is his son's brutal logic a sign of bad parenting or perfect parenting?
So imagine my surprise when I go to pick my son up and the teacher is waiting outside for me. She's just standing right there in the middle of the fucking handicap space. I knew something was wrong, so I rolled the window down like, hey, what's going on? Hi, David, can we talk to you for a minute in the office? I said, no, fuck that, we gotta talk right here. What's going on? I knew it was bad. Ibrahim had a fight. I said, a fight? Don't worry, everyone's okay. I said, everyone? What happened? Well, that's it. We don't know what happened because he won't talk to anybody. All we know is that he punched Sarah Jr. in the face. I said, oh no. Sarah's one of the only parents I'm not sure I can beat up in this school. Just in case Sarah pulled up to pick up their daughter. And then we all had to go into the office. And I was really worried because I didn't want them to kick me out of the school. And then they brought my son in, he was crying. They brought him in like a prisoner. He was like, oh. I said, son, just stop crying, calm down. Do not look at these mean faces. I need you to look at my face, and I need you to tell me the truth, buddy, all right? Just tell me the truth. Is it true? Did you punch that girl, Sarah Jr., in the face? I was trying to give him a signal to lie, but he didn't pick up on it. I was like... He wasn't paying attention. He said, yes, Daddy, I punched her face. I said, oh, my God. Why? Why would you do that? You're not supposed to put your hands on anybody. And his answer was so gangster, it scared all the parents in the room. He was like, because she had it coming. I said,
This isn't just a wild story, it's Dave Chappelle flipping a racist attack into a power play with pitch black humor. What would you do if the people who targeted you suddenly needed your mercy? Let's break down the joke, the power dynamics, and the madness behind it all.
Now, I didn't notice it, but while I was yelling at him, a crowd of all white people had formed because it was an all-white town. And I was like, uh-oh, I thought I was going to get jumped. And one of them white guys stepped down and was like, I didn't like that at all. This is not what this town represents. I don't want this goddamn stuff in my vicinity. And another white guy was like, yeah, I didn't like it either. And then an old white guy stepped out of the crowd and said, young man, if you're going to fill out a police report, I would like to come with you and do the same. I said, you guys would do that for me? And the whole crowd said, hooray! I said, come on, y'all. I look like Malcolm X going to see Brother Johnson with a trail of white people. Unreal. An hour later, we was all just sitting in the police station, and the police came in, they're like, well, Mr. Chappelle, 16 identical police reports. We ran the tags, 2 young men that had their mother's car. We have all 4 suspects in holding. Their mother is here. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do. If you want to press charges, we'll move forward. Mr. Chappelle, are you okay? Huh? Sorry about that, officer. I'm a little flustered. I've never been in a position where I could decide the fate of white children before, but It's weighing heavy on me, sir, and I really can't decide. And I saw a lady pacing back and forth in the hallway, and I said, is that? He goes, yes, that's their mother. Well, can I speak to her before I make a decision? When the mom came in, she saw it was me. She busted out crying. Oh, God, oh, no, I don't want him to go to jail. I am so sorry. I didn't raise him to do this. We love your comedy. We love you at the house. I said, miss, please, just, all right, look, I don't necessarily want your son to go to jail either. But what he did was pretty fucked up. Is there something we can do short of jail just to let him know that he's wrong? I don't know. What did you have in mind? Miss, I've never been in this position before. Oh, you know what we could do? I don't know if I'm asking too much, but maybe if you could just suck my dick a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm not gonna finish. I just want you to do it enough so that I can tell him you did it.
This is how Dave Chappelle turns the Juicy Smollett scandal into pure comedy, exposing why the story never added up in the first place.
Juicy Smollett is a very famous French actor, and he became famous on a show called Empire. He was the victim of a racist and homophobic attack. You see, Juicy Smollett is gay and he is black, not just French. When he's walking down the street late at night, two white men came out of the shadows with MAGA hats on and beat him up, tied a rope around his neck, called him all kinds of niggas, and put some bleach on him and ran off into the night. This shit was like international news. And everybody was furious, especially in Hollywood. It's all over everybody's Twitter feed and Instagram page. Justice for Juicy and all this shit. The whole country was up in arms. He was talking about it all the time on the news. And for some reason, African Americans, we were like oddly quiet. We were so quiet about this shit that the gay community started accusing African American community of being homophobic for not supporting him. What they didn't understand is that we were supporting him with our silence. Because we understood that this nigga was clearly lying. He said he's walking down the street in Chicago and white dudes come up to him and say, hey man, aren't you that faggot nigger from Empire? Does that sound like how white people talk? No white people. They don't talk like that. Are you that faggot nigga from Empire? They would never say that. It sounds like something that I would say. If you're racist and homophobic, you're not even gonna know who this nigga is. You can't watch Empire. Black people never feel sorry for the police, but this time we even felt sorry for the police. Can you imagine if you was a police veteran taking this kid's police report? Okay, Mr. Smollett, please tell me what happened. All right. 2 a.m. You left the house at 2 a.m. It's minus 16 degrees. All right. You were walking. All right. And where were you going? Subway. Sandwiches? That's when the men approached you? Did you see them? Do you have any? Okay, what they have on? MAGA hats. MAGA hats on in Chicago. Excuse me 1 second, Mr. Smollett. Frank, come here for a second. Find out where Kanye West was last night. President of Taiwan called Donald Trump to congratulate him. And Donald Trump, of course, took the call and talked to the president of Taiwan. Problem with that was Taiwan doesn't have a president. The United States functions on what they call a one China policy, and Taiwan is a renegade province of said China. And Donald Trump didn't know that and picked up the phone and started yammering away, and the media ate his ass up. And I'm not gonna lie, I was laughing like oh, this dumb motherfucker is in trouble. And then that night, I was in bed drifting off to sleep, and then I had to admit it to myself. I was like, I didn't know that shit either. I was doing a show in Detroit, and I'm sitting backstage in my dressing room. A friend of mine comes by, this chick, Dream Hampton. Dream tells me, right before I'm going on stage, she goes, Dave, I'm working on a documentary about R. Kelly. Would you like to be in it? And I was like, nah, bitch, I'm cool. I went on stage, I just forgot about the shit. And then 2 years later, the documentary comes out, Surviving R. Kelly. And when it comes out, Dream's promoting it, and she keeps bringing me up. She said, I asked Dave Chappelle to be in my documentary, and he said it was too hot for TV. I did not say that. It does not even sound like how I talk. Oh, that's too hot for TV? I would never say that shit. But I'm gonna tell you guys why I wasn't in the documentary. It's a very simple reason, and I cannot stress this point enough. The only reason that I didn't do it was because, and it's very important, I don't know this nigga at all. I don't know anything. I don't know anything that they don't tell me about. I don't hang out with this nigga. Nothing. Doubt he's seen it with his own eyes. Because who the invites a paraplegic to an orgy? One time I was on Capitol Hill, and I seen a handicapped congressman, Madison Cawthorn, that's his name. He's a Republican from North Carolina, and he was shocked because I saw him, and I go, hello, Congressman. He didn't even know I knew who he was. He turned around. Then I just walked away. I wanted him to see me do something he couldn't do. I skipped. He's no longer a congressman. I don't know if you follow politics. I'm not trying to be funny, but he lost his seat. He ran a bad race. And you know what he did wrong? He was running for Congress again, and this motherfucker tried to be controversial. He was on all them right-wing podcasts talking all that shit. He was like, Washington is worse than Hollywood. I was at home like, what? He said, these people are disgusting. They have orgies and sex parties and parties. And I was thinking, this nigga sounds like Juicy Smouye. He's lying. Now, I don't doubt that they do this kind of shit in Washington. But today, I walked all around Washington. I used to be poor in this city. And all day, people just said, hey, Dave, like they knew me personally. And I felt like I knew them. And I say to myself, my God, Dave, what a powerful dream. But then sometimes I feel regular. Feel like myself. Maybe I'll smoke some weed and be in some nightclub and feel shy. But I'll look across the nightclub and I'll see some guy that no one's ever heard of. But this worked all week and got bottle service. And this bitch bringing Moet with sparklers to him. And I picture in my mind he's Persian. He's doing some kind of weird Persian dance. And he got 6 bitches at his table because he got so much liquor, and they all call him saying, go Cena, go Cena. And I'll be looking across the room like, oh my God, I'm in that guy's dream. I can hear him telling his friends, hey, how was the club last night? Man, that shit was fantastic. I had bottle service. I seen Dave Chappelle across the club looking at me like, ooh, who was that? You have to be there to understand, but man, when that guy tackled me, it was like it's like a movie or something. You got to picture this. Picture a famous person you like. Every famous person you could imagine was at that show. It was like the biggest night that Hollywood had ever seen. And when that guy tackled me, he cleared the bleachers. I had to watch the tape afterwards to know this happened, but as soon as he tackled me, Jamie Foxx was the first motherfucker that jumped out of the crowd. He was wearing a white cowboy hat like he knew this shit was gonna happen to him. Never seen this nigga in a cowboy hat before. And Jamie started chasing that motherfucker around like any given Sunday. And that kid was fast as shit, was juking and shaking, and it broke Jamie's ankles, and he just kept running. And then Jon Stewart from The Daily Show ran from backstage and jumped at this motherfucker like Super Jew. He was like, ah! And the kid seen Jon coming, so he jumped back, and Jon went flying that way. And this kid was fast, and then he turned around, he sees the emergency exit, he starts running for the emergency exit. Just before he got to the door, motherfucking Puff Daddy from Bad Boy Records jumped in front of the door. That was like, And then every celebrity just ran out because every celebrity saw themselves in me, and they just started beating the fuck out of that kid. And I know Chris was backstage looking like, nobody helped me. I said, man, fuck y'all too, you canceled. I ain't jerking off to none of your pictures again. I supported the Me Too movement, but the whole time I thought that the way they handled that was stupid. They were doing shit like going to the Golden Globes, and all of them would be like, let's all go to the Golden Globes and wear black dresses to give these men a piece of our minds. Bitch, that is not gonna work. You think Martin Luther King's gonna be like, I want everybody to keep riding the bus, but wear matching outfits. I want everybody to wear crocheted hats so they know we're serious. What the fuck was y'all doing? And then I said something about it in one of my specials, and all these women actresses came after me. I said, man, fuck y'all too, you canceled. I ain't jerking off to none of your pictures again. They were like, who is he to tell us anything? I'll tell you exactly who I am. I'm the one that got off the bus and left $50 million on the bus and walked. I learned this past Juneteenth of a story that's true, and there was a black man who was in South Carolina during slavery who somehow got granted his freedom by his so-called master. And when his master granted him the freedom, He also gave him a plot of land. Now, it turns out this brother was brilliant. He had a good eye, a good knack for farming. And he farmed this plot of land very successfully and made a lot of money. And this is where the story gets crazy. When he got all that money, this nigga bought some slaves. You ever heard this before? This is a true story. Not only was he a slave owner, he became a slave breeder and employed tactics that were so cruel, even white slave owners were like, yo, my man. He was a wild dude, but he did it just because that's what successful people did at the time, and he just wanted to be down. What a fucking tragedy. How can a person that went through slavery perpetrate the same evil on a person that looks just like him? It's mind-blowing. And, shockingly, they're making a movie about him. Ironically, it's called Space Juice. I know what it's like to have a cold house. I wasn't allowed to touch the thermostat growing up without asking my father. And it would be fucking freezing in the house. I'd be like, Dad, please, can I please just turn the heat up to like, I don't know, 32? It's really cold. And my dad would say, just put more clothes on, David. Got all three of my outfits on. When you look at me, I'm freezing up here. And he'd say, just don't think about how cold you are, David. And I said this, I didn't say it to him, but I said it in front of him so he could hear it. I said, I fucking hate being poor. And my dad got really upset. He didn't scream or holler, that wasn't his way. He just threw his newspaper on the floor and he said, David, 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 you are not poor. Poor is a mentality. He said it's a mentality that very few people ever recover from. Don't you forget it, son. You are broke. There was a big dance coming up in the middle school. I was 12 years old. I said, Dad, can I go to the dance? He said, of course you can go to the dance. I want you to get out and meet some more kids. I said, great. It costs $3 to get in. And my dad said, ooh, sorry, son, I don't have it. I was like, what the fuck? You don't have $3? Well, then how are we alive, Dad? I wish I found some way out of this hell or do anything to not be poor. I will show Michael Jackson my ass if I get a chance. I watched Donald Trump in a press conference, and this motherfucker had all the media gathered, and this literally asked the media to their face to stop finding shit out. I was like, yo, this motherfucker is bugging. And then, I'm not even making this up, his lips started sweating. His lips. Have you ever seen a motherfucker's lip sweat? What the fuck is wrong with his lips? It's like if you're on a plane, right? You ever been on a plane? I get scared to fly. I do it all the time. I be scared on there. And sometimes the plane will hit turbulence. And then I get nervous. But I always look at the flight attendant, and she looks calm, and it makes me feel calm. But if that bitch's lips were sweating, it's terrifying. Like, yo, why are your lips sweating? What do you know? And then, I'm not even making this shit up. This motherfucker grabbed the podium, he goes, you don't know how scary the things I read in my briefings are. And I was like, holy shit, man, you ain't supposed to tell us that, bro. If I was white and the people in this town were black, you know what they'd say? They would say I was gentrifying the town. But there's no word for what I'm doing to these people. I own everything. Everything. I used to be mad at white people when I was young because I thought they were unfair. But now that I have all this property, I understand them. It's fun. Feels good to walk up to white people like, are you supposed to be here? Calling the police. It's fun. I own so much property in this town, and this is true. These white people think I'm responsible for their well-being. That's ridiculous. I'm not no public servant. I'm a capitalist. I be walking down the street minding my own business, and they come up to me with their concerns. Dave, congratulations on buying the whole goddamn town. But you need to start thinking about some affordable housing around here. And I'll be like, well, actually, champ, I can afford my house. That sounds like some shit you need to worry about. Because if I think about it, I can afford your house too. So if you want to sell, come holler at your boy. I'm collecting the whole town. I'm collecting the whole goddamn town. I'm in a totally different bar. And this bar, trust me, it's not a nice place. It's foul. It's one of those bars where the top shelf should be under the sink. This is where the poor whites drink, the tiki torch whites. You know what I mean? Them white people, they believe in Q and they love Trump. You know what I mean? Like Michigan white people. I remember I was at this bar one time. This is that kind of bar it is. I was in there one time, I was fucked up. And I turned around to everybody in the bar, I go, hey everybody, I'm gonna buy everyone in the bar around the drinks. And all my was like, hoorah! And the bartender knew I was drunk, so she pulled me aside. Mr. Chappelle, are you sure about that? That's going to be $16. $16. Tough time for the whites. And this was a holiday weekend, you know what I mean? These motherfuckers was having a rootin' tootin' time. They was in there partying, making all them noises. Woo! Ow! Yow! You know all them noises white people make before lynching? The first time I met O.J. Simpson was right after the trial of the century. I had done a show, and then a guy from the club came up and was like, hey, O.J. Simpson's here, and he said he wants to meet you. I ran down the steps, and O.J. was down there, he was like, hey, yo, man, how are you? It's very good to meet you. Standing beside him, well, I don't know the nice way to say this, his soon-to-be slain wife. I should tell you, that woman was very nice to me. She said, I think you're adorable. And she hugged me. She goes, good luck to you. And she held me for a long time. And I whispered in her ear, bitch, are you trying to get us both killed? The second time I met O.J. Simpson, I was in a restaurant in Beverly Hills with my agents. And suddenly, a group of women walked by. Every race was in that group. Black, white, Asian, Latina, white, and white again. They were all gorgeous. I watched them walk by. Then I saw a familiar face. O.J. Simpson, newly released from jail. The restaurant fell still. I was shocked. I didn't mean to say it out loud, but it just came out. O.J. He stopped, turned around to see who said it, saw my black face and correctly assumed it was me. I was sitting in the corner of the booth. He leaned over all the white people I was having dinner with and shook my hand. How are you, young man? He looked in my eyes, and I could see in his eyes that he didn't remember meeting me the first time. And then he walked away, and I looked back at my agents, and all of them had nothing short of disgust on their faces. And the only one with the courage to voice their disgust was a woman named Sharon, who used to represent me. How could you, she said. How could you shake hands with that murderer? I said, Sharon, with all due respect, that murderer ran for over 11,000 yards. Third time I met O.J. Simpson, I was playing a comedy club in Miami, the Improv. I don't know if you've ever been, but if you have, you'd know. The door for the green room is right on the stage. Can you imagine such a thing? If I walked out of the door of the green room, bam, I'm just right here. It's right from the dressing room. And I did that. I walked out, and the whole crowd was like, hooray! And I looked, ma'am, as close as you are to me. I saw him as soon as I came out. The juice. And I saw recognition in his eyes, and it filled me with pride that he knew who I was. I didn't acknowledge his presence because it was a white audience, and I didn't want to start a panic. But I did my show. Show went great. I said, good night, everyone. They all said, yay! And I didn't say nothing to O.J., but I just gave him the signal, let him know I knew he was there. And I walked into the green room, and O.J. was already in there. I was like, how the f*** is this possible? I was scared. And then my friends came in, and we all started talking. We sat down on the couch. The conversation was filled with warmth and levity, humor, and wisdom. We talked for 90 minutes, and then suddenly the Jew said, you know what? I've got to be going. Thank you for your hospitality. Good night, guys. And we said, good night. And he just walked out of the room. And as soon as the door closed, we all looked at each other like, that did that shit. My father had died. He never lived to see me do it. And when he died, I was inconsolable. I thought I'd never smile or laugh again. And the only thing that got me out of that space was a comedian friend of mine, the late, great Norm Macdonald. And what Norm did, which I'll never forget, he knew that I was the biggest Jim Carrey fan in the world. And he called me up and he goes, Dave, I'm doing a movie with Jim Carrey. Do you want to meet him? And I said, fuck, yes, I do. And it was the first time I could remember since my father died being excited. And the movie was called Man on the Moon. I didn't know any of this. And in this movie, Jim Carrey was playing another comedian I admired, the late, great Andy Kaufman. And Jim Carrey was so immersed in that role that from the moment he woke up to the time he went to bed at night, he would live his life as Andy Kaufman. So much so that everybody on the crew called him Andy. I didn't know any of that. I just went there to meet him, and when he walked into the room where we were supposed to meet, I screamed, Jim Carrey! And everyone said, no! Call him Andy. And I didn't understand. And then he came over and he was acting weird. I didn't know he was acting like Andy Kaufman. Just like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, hello. In hindsight, how fucking lucky am I that I got to see one of the greatest artists of my time immersed in one of his most challenging processes ever. Very lucky to have seen that. But as it was happening, I was very disappointed because I wanted to meet Jim Carrey and I had to pretend this was Andy Kaufman. All afternoon. He was clearly Jim Carrey. I could look at him and I could see he was Jim Carrey. Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel. Michael Jackson has been dead for 10 years, and this There's 2 new cases. And if you haven't watched that documentary, then I'm begging you, don't watch it. It's fucking gross. I felt like HBO was sticking baby in my ears for 4 hours straight. Really nasty shit. I don't want to know all these things. Turns out, Michael Jackson allegedly likes a long gander at the anus. They said he stares at people's balls. That's what they said. That's how gross the documentary was. I'm gonna say something that I'm not allowed to say, but I gotta be real. I don't believe these motherfuckers. I do not believe it. But let me qualify the statement. I am what's known on the streets as a victim blamer. You know what I mean? If somebody come up to me like, Dave, Chris Brown just beat up Rihanna. I'll be like, well, what did she do? Dave, Michael Jackson was molesting children. Well, what were those kids wearing at the time? I don't think he did it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I mean, it's Michael Jackson. I know more than half the people in this room have been molested in their lives. But it wasn't no goddamn Michael Jackson, was it? This kid got his sucked by the king of pop. All we get is awkward Thanksgivings for the rest of our lives. But here's what impressed me. Any other comedian I've ever seen, if they had bombed as bad as she did, would have snuck out of the back of the theater and went home and cried or something. And she didn't do that. Not only did she not leave, she found a seat right up in front. You know, when a new comedian watches an experienced comedian in comedy, we call this taking class. And this bitch took my whole class. She sat up there and was laughing as hard as she always laughs, as if nothing bad had even happened to her. And I saw her show. Something bad happened to her. She was drunk. So she starts talking to me while I'm on stage. But the way a person would talk to a television when they were alone, she's talking to me like that. That didn't bother me because I knew her. But the crowd didn't like that shit at all because she sucked. And a guy in the back of the room stood up. Daphne's hair was dyed blonde at the time, and the guy screamed out, and his energy felt wild as fuck. He said, "Hey, Daphne!" And everybody kind of clamped, got tense. We didn't know if it was a heckler or active shooter. And he said, "Does the carpet match the drapes?" Yeah, it was fucked up. The whole crowd kind of groaned because it was so, like, mean. Everybody groaned except for Daphne. She kind of laughed, which was weird. And then she didn't even look all the way back. She said, "Sir, I don't have carpets. I have hardwood floors." Today I only saw one guy take a shit on the street. But you know what? He had a bag. That nigga picked it up. I was waiting for somebody to do something about the homeless. You know what's fucked up about D.C.? We the nation's capital, and nobody even gives a fuck about the homeless. I'm gonna tell you the truth. I feel like I'm the only one that does. Now, y'all don't know this, but quietly for the last 2 years, I have been secretly working with Washington's homeless, and I have spent $2 million already on my homeless project. No, don't clap for me. I didn't get them food or anything like that. I just taught these niggas to Thriller dance. And you got a big treat coming up on Halloween, you'll see. And I'm sorry I didn't come home sooner, but I've been very busy in Ohio. And a lot of people say, "What are you doing out there?" And I don't know if you know this, but this is true. I'll tell you what I've been doing. The town that I've been living in for the last 25 years, I bought most of it. I like it there. Ohio loves Trump, but this town I live in is like a little itty-bitty Bernie Sanders Island in the Trump Sea. All the whites are poor out there, but these are like the dirty hippie whites, and I like them. I like these whites. And they like me too. But you know what I learned about liberal white people? Liberal white people let black people do whatever they want until you buy most of their town. He was clearly Jim Carrey. I could look at him and I could see he was Jim Carrey. Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel. Jim Carrey is talented in a way that you can't practice or rehearse. What a God-given talent. I was fascinated with him. And Norm knew that. And he called me up and he goes, "Dave, he says, I'm doing a movie with Jim Carrey. Do you want to meet him?" And I said, "Fuck, yes, I do." And it was the first time I could remember since my father died being excited. And the movie was called Man on the Moon. I didn't know any of this. And in this movie, Jim Carrey was playing another comedian I admired, the late, great Andy Kaufman. And Jim Carrey was so immersed in that role that from the moment he woke up to the time he went to bed at night, he would live his life as Andy Kaufman. I didn't know that. When they said cut, it was still Andy Kaufman. So much so that everybody on the crew called him Andy. I didn't know any of that. I just went there to meet him, and when he walked into the room where we were supposed to meet, I screamed, "Jim Carrey!" And everyone said, "No, call him Andy." And I didn't understand. And then he came over and he was acting weird. I didn't know he was acting like Andy Kaufman. Just like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, Hello. Andy, in hindsight, how fucking lucky am I that I got to see one of the greatest artists of my time immersed in one of his most challenging processes ever. Very lucky to have seen that. But as it was happening, I was very disappointed because I wanted to meet Jim Carrey and I had to pretend this was Andy Kaufman all afternoon. I was in Santa Fe the other night and the motherfucker threw a banana peel at me. It was premeditated, you could tell. The peel was too brown, you know what I mean? It was like, you didn't eat that banana recently, motherfucker. You had that shit waiting on me. And then they arrested the guy, which was, I said, someone's gonna fuck you in the holding cell, you know that, right? 20 years from now, he's gonna be tucking his kids into bed and the kid gonna be like, Daddy, tell him about the day that you threw that banana peel at that. Boy, I'll tell you what, that black motherfucker had it coming. I saw his name up on the marquee about a week before. I said, man, if I could just get close enough to meet him, throw a banana on that nigga, show him how. I didn't even want to press charges. You know, this has happened to me before. I live in Ohio, right? I was walking with my sister. Now, my sister was dressed in all Muslim garb, as were her children. And I was dressed as Dave Chappelle. We were walking and just talking about something, and a car sped around the corner, and the window came down, and somebody threw a snowball and hit me right in my shoulder. So then I ran out into the street, and I just tapped on his window. Hey, my man, can I just talk to you guys for a second? I just want to talk. Now, this is an old black trick. Really, I didn't want to talk. I was going to fuck him up. If you're ever caught in traffic and the black guy starts saying he just want to talk to you, don't open the door. And even if he's me, smiling at you. And they were like, chill, bro, just chill. And then the one guy in the back seat, I don't know what, he was just cockier than his friends. He was like, fuck it, man. I'll get out the car. And I didn't notice his window was down. And he threw a snowball and shit me right in my chest. Pow. He said, fuck you, you fucking nigger. And then the light turned green and they sped off. Now, I didn't notice it, but while I was yelling at him, a crowd of all white people had formed because it was an all-white town. And I was like, uh-oh, I thought I was going to get jumped. And one of them white guys stepped out and was like, I didn't like that at all. And then the old white guy stepped out of the crowd and said, young man, if you're going to fill out a police report, I would like to come with you and do the same. I said, you guys would do that for me? And the whole crowd said, hooray! I said, come on, y'all. I look like Malcolm X going to see Brother Johnson with a trail of white people. He was always sitting in the police station, and the police came in and like, well, Mr. Chappelle, 16 identical police reports. We ran the tags, 2 young men that had their mother's car. We have all 4 suspects in holding. Their mother is here. I saw a lady pacing back and forth in the hallway, and I said, is that? He goes, yes, that's their mother. And when the mom came in, she saw it was me. She busted out crying. Oh, God, oh, no, I don't want him to go to jail. I am so sorry. I didn't raise him to do this. We love your comedy. We love you at the house. I said, miss, please, just, all right, look, I don't necessarily want your son to go to jail either. But what he did was pretty fucked up. Is there something we can do short of jail just to let him know that he's wrong? She goes, oh, I don't know. What did you have in mind? You know what we could do? I don't know if I'm asking too much, but maybe if you could just suck my dick a little bit. Just a little bit. Watch every special I did on Netflix. Listen to everything I ever said about that community. I'll go through them. I said, how much do I have to participate in your self-image? I said, you shouldn't discuss this in front of black people. I said, I know niggas in Brooklyn that wear high heels just to feel safe. I asked you, why is it easier for Bruce Jenner to change his gender than it is for Cassius Clay to change his name? If you listen to what I'm saying, I'm not even talking about them. I'm talking about us. And they don't listen. It's very annoying. They've canceled people that are more powerful than me. They canceled J.K. Rowling. My God, J.K. Rowling wrote all the Harry Potter books by herself. She sold so many books, the Bible worries about her. And they canceled her because she said in an interview, and this is not exactly what she said, but effectually, she said gender was a fact. And then the trans community got mad as they started calling her a TERF. I didn't even know what the fuck that was. But I know that trans people make up words to win arguments. So I looked it up. TERF is an acronym. Stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. This is a real thing. This is a group of women that hate transgender. They don't hate transgender women, but they look at trans women the way we blacks might look at blackface. It offends them. Like, ooh, this bitch is doing an impression of me. Now, I shouldn't speak on this, because I am not a woman, nor am I a trans. But as we've established, I am a feminist.
Dave Chappelle took one sleepover and turned it into a roast of race, class, and stovetop stuffing. Only he could make that hilarious.
My parents did just well enough so that I could grow up poor around white people. And to be honest, when Nas and them talk about the projects, I used to get jealous because it sounded fun. Everybody in the projects was poor, and that's fair. But if you were poor in Silver Spring, nigga, it felt like it was only happening to you. Nas does not know the pain of that first sleepover at a white friend's house. And you come back home on Sunday and just look at your parents like, y'all need to step your game up. Everything at Timmy's house works. Timmy was one of my first white friends, like, in my life, man. Me and him used to hang out, and one day I was at his house, we were just hanging out, and Timmy says, Dave, why don't you stay for dinner tonight? I said, oh, man, I'd love to, but I can't. If I'm not home before dark, my mother will kill me. That was a lie. My mother had several jobs. I hadn't seen her in like 3 or 4 days. And the only reason I lied to Timmy was because at that point in my life, it was my experience that white dinner wasn't delicious. I'd rather go home and fry some bologna or some shit like that. But then old Timmy threw me a curveball I wasn't expecting. He said, it's too bad you can't stay, Dave, because Mom made stovetop stuffing. I said, what the fuck, stovetop? Well, hold on, let me make some phone calls real quick. I had seen that commercial so many times, I had dreamt of getting my hands on some of that stovetop stuffing. Finally, I met a motherfucker that actually had a box of stovetop in the house. I couldn't miss this opportunity, so I pretended to call my mother. And then I came back and I said, Timmy, you're not gonna believe this great news. Mom said I can stay. And he said, fantastic. He said, why don't you come with me and we'll help set the table and then we can say the blessing. I had no interest in setting this motherfucker's table or saying these crazy ass Mormon prayers. I just wanted that goddamn stuffing. So I told Timmy, I said, you know what, I'd love to help, but let me go wash my hands first. My plan was simple. Wash my hands slowly, and by the time I'm done, the table will be set, the blessing will be said, and all that there will be left to do is eat. Went to the bathroom. I washed my hands very slowly. I must have been in there for about 10 minutes. And suddenly, one of his mothers came to the door. She was like, hi, David, right? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, Timmy tells me that you're planning on staying for dinner. I said, I hope that's not a problem, ma'am. She says, no, it's no problem. In fact, we'd love to have you. It's just that we weren't expecting company. And I'm afraid there's not enough stovetop stuffing for everybody. So I kicked her in the pussy.